Hello and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. My name is Joris and today I'm here with a video about 9 European UCITS ETF that invest their money towards the Euro STOXX 50 or the STOXX Europe 50. And I think you are already wondering what's in a name. Well, the Euro STOXX 50 is in fact an index that invests towards the 50 largest and most liquid companies in the Eurozone. Most of the ETFs that are available on the European stocks markets, they follow the Euro STOXX 50. There is only one ETF that I found that follows the STOXX Europe 50, and that ETF invests towards the 50 largest and most liquid companies in the European continent, regardless of the currency they trade in. So then you can invest towards Norway, the UK, Switzerland, and I think that has its advantages, but also its disadvantages. When you live in the Eurozone and you only want to invest in the Eurozone, then the Euro STOXX 50 is your best choice. But if you want to have exposure to the best companies of the rest of the European continent, then investing towards the STOXX Europe 50 is of course a really good choice. But if you follow the rest of this video, you will see that in the past 5 years, the Euro STOXX 50 outperformed the STOXX Europe 50 by quite a lot. But still, I believe, in my regard, the STOXX Europe 50 is the most interesting one to invest towards. Most of them you can buy in euro, but it is also possible in the rest of Europe to buy them in Swiss francs, in pounds, or even dollars. There is even one ETF on the SIX stock exchange that you can buy in US dollars. And most of them pay their dividends in euro. On the SIX stock exchange, they all pay them out in euro. And in the slides of the ETFs, I will always give the performance of the ETFs in euro currency as well. I'm going to discuss 9 ETFs, so 1 that invests towards the STOXX Europe 50 and 8 that invest towards the Euro STOXX 50. And 2 of those ETFs you can buy in different currencies, so that's why I put +2 in parentheses. The Euro STOXX 50, when you look at the companies that it maintains, so the top 10 of the companies are ASML, SAP, Louis Vuitton, Schneider Electric, Siemens, Total Energies, Allianz, Deutsche Telekom, Sanofi and Air Liquide. If you look at those companies, they are really magnificent. I think the European continent has excellent companies, and yeah, the Euro STOXX 50 just contains the best of the best. So I think you can't go wrong with this ETF, with the ETFs that follow this index. The distribution for the countries is France makes up 38.62%, Germany makes up 27.65%, the Netherlands 14.81%, Spain 7.50%, and Italy 7.32%. And the industries, yeah, financials, information technology, consumer discretionary, industrials, and consumer staples make up the biggest part of the index. And when you look at the STOXX Europe 50, yeah, there you see other companies appear, of course, because you can invest towards Novo Nordisk as well, Nestlé, Novartis, AstraZeneca, Roche, Shell, HSBC, and yeah, ASML, SAP, and Louis Vuitton, they appear as well, of course. But those companies are truly magnificent as well. So here the companies, the countries you see are Great Britain 23.94%, France 22.74%, Switzerland makes up 19.02% of this index, Germany 13.94%, and the Netherlands 7%. And here the financials are moved up to the second position, or moved down to the second position, I must say. So making up 16.85%, and here the healthcare makes up 20.83%. And that's of course because you have Novartis, you have AstraZeneca, Roche and Novo Nordisk that come on top of the list of companies in this index. But consumer staples, information technology and industrials are also really high represented in this index. So then you have the first ETF. It's the iShares STOXX Europe 50, so the only ETF that tracks the STOXX Europe 50. And sadly enough, the total expense ratio for this BlackRock ETF is 0.35%. It is an Irish ETF and you can buy it for 41.925 Swiss francs on the SIX stock exchange. The dividends are being paid out in euro, but I'm not going to mention that for the next ETFs because it's always the same. It invests towards the 50 holdings, of course. There is 596 million invested towards this ETF, and all the ETFs are going to be fully replicated types. So for the next ETFs, I'm also not going to mention that. It has been around since the 3rd of April of 2000. And since its inception, it is up 78.07%. And you might think, hey, that's really low. But yeah, it's just opened before the crash of 2000, 2001. So it's no big surprise that this ETF doesn't have that great of a performance since its inception. But you should always look at the 1 year, 3 year and 5 year performance. So in the past year it is up almost 10%, in the past 3 years it is up almost 26%, and in the past 5 years it is up 45%. It gives out quarterly dividends, and this in the months of February, May, August and November, which are actually quite tough months to find ETFs that distribute money in those months. So I think it's a good thing that you have the possibility to invest into an ETF that give dividends in these months, and the dividend yield is 2.64%. The distribution is once again in Europe not that uncommon, that you have a higher distribution in the second quarter and also in the third quarter, because a lot of the companies still only give one dividend per year instead of quarterly dividends. So you see that apparent here and in the rest of the ETFs as well. So I'm not going to complain about that the whole video, but you know the deal. In Europe, you always have to be aware that in May, June, you always will get a higher dividend compared to the other quarters of the year. Then you have the first ETF that invests towards the Euro STOXX 50, and it's also one from iShares. It's the iShares Core Euro STOXX 50 UCITS ETF. It's EUNE, and yeah, you can see a lot of tickers, of course, here in on the European continent. But it's an Irish ETF, and the total expense ratio is 0.10%. So too bad that the previous one, 0.35%. Really annoying that for the only ETF that we have for the STOXX Europe 50 that it's so high. But okay, for the Euro STOXX 50 it's 0.10%. You can buy one share for 47.98 Swiss francs, and it invests towards 51 holdings right now. So I think it will be corrected soon. But yeah, right now it is said that it invests towards 51 instead of the 50. There is almost 4 billion invested into this ETF, and it has the same inception date, and you can see this one is almost up 100% since its inception, but still not a great performance for being around for almost 25 years. But In the past year, it is up almost 15%. The past 3 years, it is up 28.5%. And for the past 5 years, it is up almost 51%. It also gives 4 dividends per year, so quarterly dividends, in the same months as the previous ETF, and the dividend yield is almost 3%. And yeah, once again, in May and in August, a higher dividend. And in August, a surprisingly high dividend. So I don't know why it was that this ETF had such a high dividend in August, but yeah, on the sites that I checked it, it was always the same, so it wasn't a typing mistake on the SIX stock exchange. So quite nice that this ETF had such a high dividend distribution in August. Then you have the DJSXE, the iShares Core Euro STOXX 50 UCITS ETF. This one is between parentheses because on 3 different sites I could find it without the core, and on one site it was with core in the name, but you always have the easing code to double check. The total expense ratio is 0.10% and it's a German one, so German based ETF. You can buy it for 50.55 euro on the SIX stock exchange. It invests toward the 50 holdings from the Euro STOXX 50 index. There is 7.6 billion invested into this ETF, and it's been around since the end of 2000, and this one is up since its inception 121% almost. But in the past year it is up 14.68%. In the past 3 years it is almost up 28.50%, just like the previous one. And in the past 5 years it is up 50.50%. Again, quarterly dividends, but in the other months, so in March, June, September and December, and the dividend yield is 2.80%. Here, once again, nice dividend distributions, higher in June and September. Then you have E50 EUA from UBS. So Luxembourg-based fund, you can see it on the easing code as well, but UBS always mentions it in its ETF name as well. Total expense ratio of 0.09%, and you can buy this ETF in euros on the SIX stock exchange or in Swiss francs, and you can buy 1 share now for 50.26 euros. There are 50 holdings into this ETF, and there is almost a $500 million invested in this ETF. It's been around since 29th of October of 2001, and in the past year it is up 14.80%. In the past 3 years it is up 28.41%, and in the past 5 years it is up 50.50%. UBS funds normally pay out 2 times in a year, and that's normally in February and in August, and the dividend yield is 2.96%. And here you can see once again in August 1.2 euros and in February 0.27 euros. And then we can go to the Xtrackers Euro STOXX 50 UCITS ETF, the XESX, and that's also a Luxembourg-based ETF with a total expense ratio of 0.09%. You can buy 1 share for 48.98 Swiss francs on the Swiss stock market, and there is 3.6 billion invested into this ETF. It's been around since the 4th of January of 2007, and in the past year it is up 14.82%. In the past 3 years it is up 28.50%, and in the past 5 years it is up 50.73%. So always more or less the same percentages that those ETFs performed in the past 5 years. And it pays out quarterly dividends also in February, May, August and November, and the dividend yield is 3.09%. And here you can see the distributions, and here in August the highest distribution, so this ETF really holds everything together until August and then distributes the most part of the dividends. Then you have H50E from HSBC, the Euro STOXX 50 UCITS ETF, with a total expense ratio of 0.05%. And this is in fact the best performing ETF. And I think that has to do a lot with the fact that the total expense ratio is the lowest for this ETF. It's an Irish-based ETF, and you can buy this one in euros or in US dollar on the SIX stock exchange, and you can buy one share for 52.36 euros momentarily. There is 1 billion invested into this ETF, and it's been around since the 5th of October of 2009. And in the past 5 years, it is up 51.75%. In the past 3 years, it is up 29%. And in the past year, it is up 15.15%. It pays out 2 dividends per year. So just like UBS, the HSBC funds most of the time only pay out 2 dividends per year, also in February and in August, and the dividend yield is 2.83%. If you look at the dividends, once again, the highest dividend is going to be paid out in August. Then we go to the ETF of Amundi, the CD5E, the Euro STOXX 50 UCITS ETF DR Euro distributing, a fund from Luxembourg with a total expense ratio of 0.09%. You can buy one share for 79.09 euros, so quite expensive ETF this one. And there are 54 holdings in this ETF. I don't know what they are doing, but I think that's really annoying that it's the Euro STOXX 50 and they hold 54 holdings in their ETF. So strange thing. Normally Amundi, I like them really much, as long as they don't have the synthetic replicated ETFs, because they do that a lot as well. But this one is a fully replicated type, and then they hold 54 holdings instead of 50. So I think that's a bit too loose dealing with the index. And they have 629 million invested into their ETF. It's been around since the 29th of June of 2010, and in the past year it is up almost 15%. The past 3 years it is up 28.50%, and in the past 5 years it is up 50.70%. It also only gives one dividend per year in December. It used to be November, but it switched to December in the past 2 years, and the dividend yield is 2.78%. And yeah, it was on the 10th of December that it paid out its dividend, and it was 2.18 euros. Then you have the ETF from BNP Paribas. It's the Easy Euro STOXX 50 UCITS ETF, the ETBB. It's the only one that only has one ticker on the European continent. So that's a big plus for BNP Paribas. But the total expense ratio is 0.15%. So that's one of the most expensive ones following the Euro STOXX 50. It's a France-based ETF, and you can buy one share for 12.43 euros. There are 50 holdings in this ETF, and there is 111 million invested towards this ETF. And I think that's not a surprise when the total expense ratio is actually quite high compared to all the other ones. The past year it is up 14.76%, the past 3 years it is up 28.50%, and in the past 5 years it is up 50.81%. And it's been around since the 27th of July of 2015. It pays out one dividend per year in May or June. This year it was in June, and they have a dividend yield of 2.90%, and the dividend was 0.36 euros on the 4th of June. Then you have E5 ESG, and I put this one as the last. It's also the youngest ETF, so when you noticed it, they went from old to the newest ones ETF, and this one is actually also the youngest one. And the composition is a little bit different from the rest of the Euro STOXX 50 ETFs, because this one is more focused around ESG. And although there is only a slight difference in the composition, the performance of this ETF is actually quite good. It's a Luxembourg-based ETF, and the total expense rate is 0.10%. You can buy one share for 17.60 euros, and there is just over 1 billion invested into this ETF. And yeah, it's been around since the 25th of July of 2019. And since its inception, it is up 80.27%, so the past 5.5 years. And in the past year, it is up 16.79%. In the past 3 years, it is up 33.24%. And in the past 5 years, it is up 65.45%. It pays out 2 dividends per year, because it's a UBS fund, of course. So also February and August, you can expect to receive a dividend from this ETF. And the dividend yield is 3.21%. So also the highest dividend yield you can expect from this ESG ETF. I think that's really surprising, and the two funds that pay out half-yearly dividends from UBS and HSBC are in fact the two best ETFs that I mentioned today in this video. And if you look at the overview of all the discussed ETFs of this video, you can see that the STOXX Europe 50 ETF from iShares in fact underperformed all the ETFs from that follow the Euro STOXX 50. I put the last one from UBS at the bottom, and if you look at the performance, yeah, it's just way better than all the rest. So here, putting emphasis on the ESG norms really paid off in the past 5 years. And then you also see that having the lowest total expense ratio also has a positive effect on the performance of the ETF. So just having 0.04, or yeah, more or less half of the expense ratio, of even 1/3 of the expense ratio of the one of PNB Paribas, has a huge effect on the year performance. And that's why the one from HSBC actually comes out on top of this overview. And with that being said, I thank you for watching to this video. Please consider subscribing if you like this kind of content. Hitting that like button helps out the channel enormously as well, because then the YouTube algorithm favors this video and shows it to other people that like this kind of content. So thank you for clicking that button as well. And with that being said, thank you for watching this one, and see you on the next one on my YouTube channel. Bye!